Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and I just got back from another Pepcom event in New York City where I saw a bunch of rather interesting PCs, including a new one from HP. This is called the Elite X2. It's a business computer, but it's actually within reach of consumers also. So the starting point is $899. This is another Surface-like device. Everyone's kind of taking that Microsoft idea and building onto that themselves. So we saw Lenovo's got one out on the way. Now HP does too. This one is powered by a Core M processor like the Lenovo is. We have a choice between an M3, an M5, or an M7 processor. These are the low power versions of the higher end i3, i5, i7 processors that are in a lot of notebooks also. So you get better power consumption because they consume less power. They're also fanless, but they are much faster than the Atom chips at the low end of the market. We've done a lot of testing of these Core M-based computers of the old generation chips, so these new ones are going to be a little bit quicker. 8 gigabytes of RAM standard on all models. It starts with 128 gigabyte SSD. You can move up to a 512 gigabyte PCIe drive, so you have some really good performance on the hard drive there. You also have some really good performance on its USB-C port. So this supports USB 3.1, but it also supports Thunderbolt too. So you can get a docking station and dock everything up to it. So Thunderbolt will be passed through that USB connector. That's a new standard for Thunderbolt. So USB and Thunderbolt on the same connector. There's also a USB 3 connector on it also. 1080p front-facing webcam. You have a couple of choices on keyboards. They have a thin one and a thicker one. The thicker one has a card reader on it as well as NFC for security. So a lot of enterprise organizations have card access. You have to put the card in order to use the computer. This supports that, but it'll give you a little bit of a thicker keyboard. If you don't need that, you can get the thinner one. Both are backlit also, and they both kind of snap into the screen the same way it does on the Surface. So you can easily open them up also for IT departments to repair them, so you can swap out some components. I don't think you can do the RAM, but I think the SSD can be changed out as well as the wireless cards, and I think you can replace the screen and the hinge rather easily on there. There's also a pen which comes with it for that $899 price, so you have very similar Surface-like qualities to this device. The pen was designed by Wacom, so it's got they've got some experience with this kind of stuff. So we'll have to put this one through the test when it comes out. There's going to be a consumer version also. So this is $899. I think it's actually very reachable by consumers, but they have like a specific consumer version called the Spectre X2, and that one's going to have 2 USB-C ports, and all of these are coming out soon. So I'm hoping to get a couple into the studio so we can check them out, including the one from Lenovo. And speaking of Lenovo, we also saw them at the show the other day, and they had a new all-in-one called the Yoga 900 Home. Now, we looked at one similar to this a couple of years ago. It kind of looks like a big tablet. It sits on the desk. It's a little bit lower to the desk than you would see normally with an all-in-one, which would usually have like a higher stand on it. So it's really kind of geared towards kids and families. And the reason why it sits that way is that you can actually fold it down flat, and then it puts on this whole new interface that encourages multiple users on the screen at the same time. And it's got some cool stuff like an air hockey game and a few other things that are really kind of well suited for that rather large table-like design. So it's kind of a neat thing that they've put together there. Now, this new one is going to have an i5 processor, a Broadwell chip, so it's a 5th generation Intel chip, so it'll be a little bit faster than the prior generation. It's also got a GPU from NVIDIA. It's a 940A, so it's not going to be as fast as all the GTX gaming devices are out there, but it's going to be better than Intel graphics, so I think you could probably hit a pretty good gaming ratio at around 720p or so as far as frame rates are concerned on some more modern games. We're going to try to get one of those into the studio to check it out. The other neat thing with this is that if you are moving it around, so maybe you want to take it off the desk and put it on the coffee table to play a game or something, it has a battery built in that will power it for about 3 hours or so. And they also changed from a spinning hard drive to an SSD, so you'll have less of a risk when you're moving it around for data loss too. So a nice little improvement, or actually a big improvement on what they had earlier. And what's really neat about Lenovo and HP and Acer for that matter is that they're always trying so many different designs to see what sticks. So this was another interesting computer to see what might work out there, but definitely a good family fun kind of device. And we'll see what that looks like when it gets to the channel. And we also saw Acer at the show, and they had a new convertible Chromebook called the R11. This is 11.6 inches, about 2.7 pounds or so, powered by an Intel Celeron processor. It'll work in tent mode, pad mode, and regular laptop display. Has AC, wireless, and USB 3 on board. That one's going to retail for about $299. The Predator gaming tablet was also there. This is an Intel Atom X7 processor-based tablet device, 1920 by 1200 display with 2x2 AC wireless for $299. So this is really geared at Android gaming, and we'll see how that performs too. I'm going to try to get one of these into the studio to check out. So a little bit of a different track than we saw with the NVIDIA Shield tablet, which is running ARM-based chips. So we'll see how the Intel versus ARM thing works when we get one in to take a look at. But a pretty cool looking device. It's got some good sound on it too. It's hard to hear it in that room there, but they're really touting the sound as one of the major benefits of that device. I also saw something interesting too. They have a gaming laptop called the Predator 15. This is not going to be cheap. It's got some Skylake i7s. You can get it configured with up to 64 gigabytes of RAM, a GTX 980 processor. It's got USB-C with the the new USB 3.1 speeds on there. And what was really cool about it is that you could take the optical drive out and swap in a fan. So if you were doing some heavy-duty gaming and you didn't want to get bogged down by thermal issues, you can pop in that fan and it will cool it off a little bit better. So it's got two fans built in. You slide that other one in and you get additional cooling, which should provide better performance with it also. So I'll try to see if I can get one of those in. It starts at $1499. So I'm still on the hunt for an under $1,000 gaming computer. So if you know of any, let me know. I'm going to try to get a few in to take a look at. So that one's a little bit more on the higher end, but if you are very serious about portable gaming, it might be worth looking at, especially if you get it up to the hilt with that 980 GPU and 64 gigs of RAM. So that was what I saw at Pepcom this week. I'd love to hear any questions that you have. I'm going to try to get these things in to look at here probably over the next couple weeks or months. These are not all available just yet, or maybe not yet available to reviewers. So as soon as I'm able to get my hands on some, I will put them up here for you to see for a review. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the generosity of my Patreon supporters. If you find the channel helpful, you too can contribute for as little as $1 a month. Visit Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more.